Now, in addition to what we've done so far, we also want to have some sort of way to transition between the two different states. The normal state, which is like a calm civilian, and the panicked state, which is the one that's trying to survive, right? So let's create a function for this blueprint, and we'll just call it something like change state. Or let's call it update state. Data even. Update state data. And what we want to do here is we want to have an input here that says new state. And we want this to be of the type eCivilian states. So when we come here with new state, we can set whatever variables that we want to update with. So for example, if we make a switch on this, we'll get the different states we currently have available, which is normal and scared. So we'll say when it's normal, we want to have the movement speed, for example, set to something low. Set max walk speed. We'll set this to something, we'll promote this to a variable so we have something configurable. So normally this is something that's set to 600, but let's say we want to have 200 maybe when we're calm and collected. And then we want to have a similar one for us when we're panicked. And for this one we can make use of the normal speed, which is 600 then. So we'll name this one scared walk speed. We'll call this one calm walk speed. Like so. We'll compile and then we'll set a 600 value here. So that allows us to do whatever config now here that we want. So we could have the walk speeds, for example, set and have that running, but we can also change other things here. And we probably will do some other smaller tweaks later on to make it a little bit more flourished. So for now, let's see if this works. What we need to do is we need to have the AI be activatable. So we need to have on our player character, we need to be able to make a sound. And I think we made a sound here. However, it's not the correct tag for the civilian to react on. So if we go to our perception update, we called it hostile sound. And we should probably make this something so it's not so hard coded, but this will do for now. It's mostly for demonstration purposes. But something to be aware of, that this has potential for improvement. So third person character will create a hostile sound. Loudness 1, that's fine. Max range, fine. And let's see here, if we go to our... We can play around with the age later on, I guess, but for now this should be okay. So now if we are pressing our E key with our player controller, we're reporting a sound event, and whoever is nearby will, since we have a max range of 0, everybody will hear it. It will be of a hostile sound. Our civilian will also, if you haven't followed along with the earlier episodes, you probably will have missed this also. The third person character over here needs an AI perception source, stimuli source, which needs to be of at least the hearing one, so that we can actually generate these noise events for the AI to react to. So anyway, so we're reporting this noise. The AI will identify it. It will go through all of its senses here because it will get a new actor, being us, saying that we have a new perception. It will go through all the different perceptions. It will find that one of them is the hostile sound. It will be true. It will check is it successfully sensed, which will happen immediately when we press, because it's heard everywhere. At which point it will go here and say that we should be going into survival mode, true, and we have a vector value for a hostile sound location being set as well. We possibly need to have these two switched around, I'm thinking, because in case this one runs first, and I should be fine. At worst case should be that, let's see, where's our, there, behavior tree. We initiate this and we get a query to go that the destination of the sound is 0. That's not great, I guess. Let's do it. Let's actually, since I feel like I should be moving it behind, let's move it behind. So we'll do this. So this one will go here. This one will not go there. This one will go here. This became very messy all of a sudden. We'll bring that one up here, or just delete it completely. I'll do it so. Do it so. And so. I'll do this. Okay, this is a little bit better, although I'm not super happy about this. Let's put it up here and that one up here, something like that. Okay, that's a little bit better. So, essentially, we're setting a location for the stimuli as our hostile sound location. Then we're saying that we should go into survival mode. The blackboard and the behavior tree kicks in saying that this has changed. It is now in survival mode. We should run the EQS query, which should be determining a hiding location. And it should be moving to that hiding location, and then it should be waiting, and then this is running until this actually changes. Which happens again when we get here and we determine that the hostile sound is now not being sensed anymore, and we're setting the boolean back to false. So let's see if this works out. So this one is, we checked, it's running the behavior tree. It has the, let's see. Okay, first of all, let's double check some things here. The civilian is using the civilian controller, that is good. Let's find the civilian controller. The civilian controller is using the behavior tree for the civilian, that is good. We should be all good to go. So as soon as we go in here now and press our E key, the civilian should be running away from our current location. Okay, it's already doing. Alright, it has the wandering thing. So it should be, as soon as we press the E key, it should be running to behind some kind of wall. So now I press the key, it's running behind a wall and hiding. So that essentially worked. And now it is actually going back to its wandering. Let's have some debugging so we can actually see that, and let's get rid of the old debugging from the previous tutorials. So let's see here, we have the wasn't that the code in the actual old character? Print strings, printing, yes. So let's just disconnect this one. So that all is fine when it comes to that now. So we have that. We'll go into our civilian and we'll say print here, and we'll say survive exclamation mark. So we know that that has happened when this part of the code triggers. From this part where we have waited until the sound has been so long that we don't think it's a danger anymore, we can say danger averted. And let's just go in here and see. So nothing is happening. We press our key, survive. It's running away. Survive, survive, survive. And danger averted, and it goes back to its normal states. So the first thing you might have noticed was that the character didn't actually run away immediately when we pressed the key. The reason for that is, and you could see that if we had had the behavior tree up at the same time, but we were probably in the middle of this weight. So, or possibly even something else in this part here where we're moving to some place and then we're getting to the weight. Because this is executing until it's done, and then it's going up to the selector, and then the selector is trying to do this part over here. And you can alter this behavior by having notify on result change, on value change, and then tell it to abort whatever it is doing currently. So it can abort everything that's lower priority or both or self, depending on what you want. So we want to have everything that's lower priority, meaning everything over here, aborted when you can actually see which modes are being affected by the coloring of the blue over here. So whenever this is happening, that the result, or actually the value, let's say the value change, the difference between those are slightly different. It's value change is if you were to have something like if you were checking against an actor and it's checking that the actor is set, then you have a result change when it goes from nothing to an actor. But if you already have an actor and then you change to a different actor, the result hasn't changed, the value has changed. Or if it's the other way around. It's one of those at least. So it's a subtle thing, but it should be working for us regardless in this situation, because it will both go from not set to set, and it's a new value. So this one should be aborting immediately. So we can try that out. So let's try to click it or press it immediately when he starts moving, which means that he should be having a wait afterwards. And let's see if it just runs immediately instead of having that wait happen. So he runs immediately now, you can see. And what happens for him after that is that he says danger averted pretty quickly. Although what he might have been in some kind of a maybe he might have run the query here once more again, because he's running from our character now instead of the sound. When we went around the corner, it probably ran the EQS query again, saw that we were over here and found a different way to run and hide. So what we can do first is we can make sure that we are actually changing our context that we had before as our debug, which is that we're finding the actor, and instead we want to make use of our sound location. So let's see if that works. So now it should be running as soon as we press the button, but we will be creating a sound. And let's also symbolize that by going to our third person character. We can do a draw debug sphere will be nice. Like so. And we'll do it. We have the actor location over here. And we'll do a radius of 50 centimeters, 12 segments is fine. Let's make it green and bright. Let's make it a duration of 5 seconds and a thickness of, let's say, 2. Now this has the duration of 5 seconds, and the civilian over here has its AI perception as a max age of 5, meaning that after 5 seconds it forgets it. So about the same time that this sphere that we will be drawing once we make a sound will disappear about the same time as the character will be going back into normal mode again. So let's activate it there, and you see it running, and it disappears and it goes back to normal again. So the things that you're of course able to tweak now are things like you can have the max age over here changed so it either won't forget, or you can have a hard value like this if you want to. But other than that, you can also make use of the age over here, making sure that not only is it sensed, but it needs to have an age that's less than a certain amount of time, making sure that you're actually reacting to something that is fairly recent. Yeah. So let's start tuning this a little bit so it feels a little bit more like a proper civilian. So let us make use of our function that we created, the update state data over here. So we'll create one for each of these two different branches of the perception. So the new state scared and new state is normal over here, because of here it goes into survival mode, so we go into scared state, and then the normal state is over here. And we also want to have a begin play to make sure that we actually start off with a update state that is normal. So this should be giving us a lower speed, so it should be walking around a little bit more calmly. You can see it's walking around calmly. Then we press our key and it starts running, runs away, and crisis averted, and it returns to walking again. So it's a little bit more normal looking. So that's one step. Another step is that we can make use of something like Mixamo animations to make it feel a little bit more alive than the normal ones. We can play around with and creating some blend spaces if we want to have two completely different movement sets for the different states, and have that being handled here as well. What we will be doing is I will be going to Mixamo, and I'll be providing a link for you how to import animations if you want to, and I'll provide whichever animations I choose to use from Mixamo, and I'll just return to you after I've imported them into the engine. Okay, so welcome back. I have imported some animations now from Mixamo, and if you don't know how to import animations and then retarget them, again, there will be a link to that in the description. But essentially what I did, I just looked up some animations. These were the ones actually. An idle, a crouch idle, and the walking animation. I'm not sure if I will even use all of them. And then I retargeted them so I can make use of them. Then we have the mannequin with its default animations over here, which has an animation blueprint. And the animation blueprint over here makes use of this 2D blend space, among other things. What we can do is we can actually just make it easy for us and duplicate this and say that this is our scared idle run, something like that. We go into our animation blueprint. We can find our state machine. We have an idle and a run state over here, which can do the jumps and such. And here we can just add a, not a conduit, add a state. We'll call this the scared idle/run. And we'll hook these up like so we can transition between these two. And to be able to transition between them, we'll add a variable. We'll call it the civilian states for now. We will make this type of civilian. Is that not what we called it? Civilian states. So, yeah. So we have the civilian states. We can compile this, and we can have a default value of normal over here, which is fine. Then we can say that to be able to transition to scared idle, what we need to have is a civilian state that is not equal. No, that did not work. Not enum not equal. I'm assuming it picked the other one below. So we want to check if we are scared. We need to make sure that it's actually, we don't want to have that. We want to have equal check. We want to make sure that we're actually scared if we want to transition into the scared one. So that works there. Let's go back to the state machine over here. We'll go to the state of leaving from scared to idle. Now we want to check and see if it is not equal. And then we want to check against not equal scared. This will allow us to transition back, like so. And then we want to actually do something in here. Now, in the original idle here, you can see that we're making use of speed and the third person idle run. We can just copy this, go back to our other idle, then we'll plug it in here. But instead of our third person idle in here, we'll use our scared idle, like so, and plug it in there. Delete this. Now we just duplicated the scare idle, doesn't do anything different, so let's find our scared idle 2D blend space. And that this is what it looks like. It has an idle over here, and it has a movement that's walking, and then a running in the end here. And that, for the most part, works fine for us. However, I did also bring in a crouch idle, I think I called it. No, not that one apparently. This one, Mixamo Crouch Idle, I've named it apparently. Oh, I also double clicked in on it. So we want to remove this node over here, essentially the one that's our normal idle, so we don't have that one, and we'll just bring in our crouch idle over here. So this means that when we are at 0 speed, we will actually be crouching like this. So the further or the quicker we walk, the more we walk towards normal, and then we run. So that means that when our character stops, it will actually go down into a crouch, like so. And that will probably be fine for us. In addition to that, we can actually start off with testing that and see if this works. But we need to have our civilian, because we are transitioning between states now for the blueprint as well, the animation blueprint. We want to get our anim instance for our mesh. And we need to cast this to a third person anime blueprint, like so, because otherwise we don't have actual access to the variables that we have added. So we'll do that. Once we have that, we can actually set our civilian state. We'll do it down here as well. So essentially, when we decide that we are in the normal state, we'll say we want to go to the normal state. If we are scared, we want to go to our scared state. And then our animation blueprint should handle those two different states when it comes to the transitions. So if we play now here, we see our character. Actually, that's not what I wanted. Oh, right, I was playing around with something earlier. I changed the when I was retargeting and checking that the retarget had gone okay. I didn't change this back to using the animation blueprint for the normal character. So this is what it looks like. So it's walking around, we scare it, it runs away, and it gets behind the corner, and then it crouches. And then once it's out of danger again, it starts moving around. So it's starting to look a little bit more like a civilian. Let's actually make it a little bit more like a civilian when it comes to the actual sound as well. So let's go to our event graph and make use of the age. So we want to make use of the age as long as the age is less than or equal to. Then we can promote this variable and say that this is our time to be afraid, which is a float value. And we'll check this and make an AND boolean. Make sure to connect these so we have both sensed it, or the sense is active, and the age is not has not been expired. Then we are supposed to be scared. But if either we're not sensing anymore or the time to be afraid has expired, then we should be going back to being normal. So let's see, if we put this to something like 1 second, this should be pretty quick to return to normal. So we scare, he runs, He's actually still in survive. Damage averted. That did not work as I planned. It's probably because, let's see. This is probably not the ideal way to do this. Because this only happens when our perception is getting updated. And if our perception is not... What's required for our perception to be updated is that we have some sort of new information about it. And I am unsure if... Let's see here. We're printing information when we are true and false here. False here would be when we have a hostile sound, but nothing. Okay, so let's try this again. We scare him, we get survive, 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 damage averted, danger averted. Okay, that went quicker this time. Danger averted. It goes pretty quick into survive, survive, danger averted. So now the timer seems to be working. I was... Ah, okay. Yes, of course. So if I was to stand over here and do the sound, he will hide until I get out here, and then he will see me, and then he gets a perception update, of course, because he can actually see me. So probably not ideal, so we will probably ditch this. And instead we will hook it up like it was before, and instead we will have the civilians hearing and the perception instead deciding. So 10 seconds or something like that. So that will be what determines when the character goes from the danger sense to the normal sense again, essentially. Yeah, I think that's fine. So let's recap quickly. So what we have created today is we have a character that's walking around like a civilian, and when we press our key here it simulates shooting, and the civilian becomes really scared and wants to hide from wherever the shot was fired. And as soon as it gets there, it goes into a scared idle state, and it will stay like that for 10 seconds until it goes back to normal and goes back to its normal behavior of being a civilian walking around. And what we did to create this was we have our civilian who is listening to its perceptions, making sure that if we get a perception of a noise being made of the type hostile sound, and it is currently sensing that, it will update some values for its blackboard, like where the sound came from and that it should be scared, and also we update the state of the character so that we can have both our animation blueprint reflect how it's supposed to be looking and also affecting its speed, so it's being able to run for 600 in velocity if it is scared, but only able to walk 200 in velocity if it is not scared. And the not scared part, of course, is here when we have either not heard something for 10 seconds, or this is our state to begin with. And our blackboard, which is not that complicated, is essentially reflecting this, where we have our fallback state, which is the one that we want to do the least, and this is the one that we want to do the most, because if we are scared we want to run to safety, and this is just what we do when we are in safety. So when we're in safety, we're just gonna find a random wandering position, which is a task that we created, just getting a reachable position that's within 3 meters of where we currently are. And once we have that destination, we walk there and then we wait a little bit. We could also, for example, put in something like a play animation over here and have the other animation that I was playing around with earlier, the one that's idle. And then it will look like this. It will walk to some place, it will start playing some animation of where it's kicking the ground, and then it will go back to... Actually, that one is not aligned with the floor I see now. But anyway, so he's going around being idle, playing the animation, waiting a little bit, and then walking around. And then when we press the button, it will immediately run to safety. And that's essentially what this part does. Then this sequence, whenever it has decided that it is in survival mode, we run an equest query, which again is a query that we tested out over here, which is determining that we want to have the closest position to us possible, that's still probably not being visible from wherever we heard the sound being made, and that is the position we want to run to. And once we get that location, we move to that location with our max speed, which is 600, and then we wait there, and then we run this query over and over again while we are there, which is going to be for 10 seconds. This could of course be made in a slightly different way if we wanted to, but essentially now what we have is a very simple civilian that can react to something like gunfire, if you had a player being able to shoot a gun. I hope all of that made sense, and that you were able to follow along on all of this, and that it was a learning experience for you. In the next part we're going to be doing something a little bit more advanced, but still fairly easy. Something that could possibly be the behavior of a soldier, for example. Hope to join me then. Hopefully you found this video helpful. If you liked the video, leave a like. If you did not like it, leave a dislike. Leave any suggestions or comments you have down below. Subscribe and share this video if you want to see more like it in the future. That is all for now. Keep on learning. Take care.